Hello, and welcome to the Notary Business Talk, the podcast dedicated to sharing ideas, strategies, and techniques to help grow your business and improve your life. And now, with more than 2 decades of notary business experience, your host, Abraham Zamora, the notary entrepreneur.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Notary Business Talk. My name is Abraham Zamora, and I am the Notary Entrepreneur. In this episode, we're going to discuss how to find a mentor as a notary public to kind of guide you through this journey that we call notary entrepreneurship. And today I have a special guest who's going to join me, and he's here for a specific reason because he sort of did without really, maybe he knew what he was doing, but given the conversations we had, he did something that I think talks about this point that we're going to be making today. And so, first of all, let me go ahead and introduce you guys to JC. He's a notary from Texas, and he reached out to me a couple of days ago, maybe about a week or two ago. Was it, JC?
Just about.
Yeah, just about that. And we've connected ever since, and we've been having this conversation, and now here we are. So, hey, JC, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yes, likewise. And, before we get started, let me tell you guys kind of how JC and I connected, because I think it's a good story and a good example of what a lot of you notaries who are listening to this show can do to find someone who can guide you, help you along the way, and I think, and well, we'll talk about why he did this, but let's first talk about what happened. So you want to tell a story because you heard the first episode of the Notary Business Talk, and then I got a message from you through, I think it was Facebook or Instagram, Facebook, right? And you said, hey, and here's the thing about JC. He just said, hey, listen, I heard your first episode and I think it was really great. Thank you for the content or something like that. Do you remember exactly how it went, JC?
I do. I remember listening to the first episode, and you sounded like so down to earth. You've been doing this. I heard you saying that you've been doing it for 20 years. And I said, man, this guy sounds like somebody who could be reachable, somebody who I could reach out to. And just listening to that first episode, I went ahead and I sent you a message through Facebook Messenger. I say, hey, Abraham, I just listened to your first episode. And I got a couple questions to ask you. I just, I'm stuck. And that's how I reached out to you. And you answered right away.
Yeah.
Which was, I liked.
Now you had told me, and so I heard, I got his message, and I had time at the moment, so I responded right away. I love hearing from the audience and the people who listen to the show. As I told you in the past, I really value and appreciate your attention, taking the time to listen to the show. And so when I can respond and I have the time, I will do that. In this case, I was able to. And you had told me that you've been a notary for about 8 years now. Is that right?
Yeah, I was a notary for 4 years in Florida.
Okay.
And I was a notary for 4 years in Georgia. And now I recently became a notary here in Texas a couple months ago.
Right. And in those 8 years, this was the first time that you really decided to take this serious. I remember you told me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me what happened. Like what made you decide, like, okay, this is the time where I'm going to take this opportunity as a notary to just go for it. What happened? Was there something that happened in your life, or some decision that you made that made you say, okay, I'm going to go for it?
I'm getting older.
You and me both, brother.
Yeah, I'm turning 47 this year, meaning 50 is right around the corner.
Right.
And 60 will be here before you know it. So my thing is, I'm getting older. I don't see my bank account getting any bigger. So that's what it is. And I've always liked notary work.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved notary work. It's always been good to me. But here, I see the opportunity here in Texas. When I moved to Texas, I was not thinking of becoming a notary.
You weren't.
I see all the Latinos here, so many Latinos, the opportunity here is huge. And you will think that there'll be a lot of bilingual notaries here.
Yeah.
There's not. I said, man, this is a great opportunity. Let me get back into it. But let me hit it full force.
Yeah.
I have a full-time job. So I'm not doing this full-time. But this is something where I said I'm gonna hit this full stream of I'm gonna hit with everything I got. So that's it. That's how it is. That's how I started it.
Well, now, JC, you told me when we spoke that there was something beyond. I mean, being a notary in itself is not the most exciting thing in the world, right? I mean, we point at documents and we put our stamp on pieces of paper, right? I mean, that's essentially, if we really boil it down, is what we do as notaries. But so nobody says, when I grow up, Daddy, I want to be a notary, right? It's usually a firefighter or a cop or something. But being a notary is a means to an end. It gets you and it helps you achieve sort of beyond the money goals and dreams and ambitions that you really, that at some point become so powerful and the desire becomes so strong that you say, I just got to go for it. What was it for you that made you decide, okay, this is, I got to do this, man? Like, what was it? What was it for you?
The biggest thing is I love spending time with my family.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something that I can do on the side where, make money, but spend more time with my family. My kids are getting older. My youngest is an adult. He's 18.
Yeah.
So my oldest is 26. She stayed in Florida. But I want to be able to tell her, hey, come on over. Let's take vacation. Let me pay for your trip over here. So the biggest why, in other words, what's my why? What's my biggest why? It's my family, my wife and my kids. Even though my kids are not little, it's like I told them the other day, you're always gonna be my babies. But that is my biggest why, is my family. I'm not looking to become a millionaire off of this. I've heard people say, oh, you can become a millionaire. I'm not looking into that. But I am looking to be comfortable and not rely on my current job to fall back on. God forbid something happens to my job.
Yeah.
I want to be able to become successful enough in this where I can say, hey, like what you did.
Yeah.
Like what you did. So, but my biggest why is my family. That's my biggest why.
You had said that when I asked you when we were going back and forth, and just so you guys know, we went back and forth for about an hour through text. And at some point I said, hey, JC, let's just, I think it'd be easier if I just get on a Zoom call with you and have a conversation. I obviously can't do that with everybody who reaches out, but when I have the time, I'm able to do it, I will. In this case, I was able to. And then there was another reason why I did it as well. And I don't think JC even knows why I got on the phone with him. But when we talked, I said, well, what are you looking to make? Like, what is your goal? And you said, you know what, Abraham, $1,500 a month, but even $500, $1,000 a month. I mean, that would be like a big deal for me. It would really help me out. Like, how would that kind of extra money, how would that be significant in your life? How would that help you in living a better life?
And let's go back now.
Okay.
Yeah. At first, I told you that. Yeah, I told you 1,500 that's my goal.
Yeah. Right
now, and actually, I scaled it back because after you and I spoke.
Yeah.
On Zoom, I listened to another episode. I'm constantly listening to your episodes.
Thank you.
I try and make at least one a day, by the way. Let's put that out there.
Okay.
And one of your episodes after that, you said, hey, don't overdo it. Don't try and hit a home run with. And so, you know what? That makes sense. I'm putting way too much. And you told me also, by the way, I remember you telling me on our call, not too much. I'm putting way too much pressure on myself. So I scaled back to let's start making 150 a month. Let's start with 150 and baby steps.
Yeah.
I made $250 this month.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did. I mean, $50 here, $50 there.
Yeah.
Hey, because I'm doing general notary right now.
Right.
So, but if I could get to 1,500, 2,000 eventually, man, that is a life changer. Because again, I'm gonna be able to pay. I'm gonna be able to buy a house, which we're renting right now. We came here to Texas. I'm renting. I'm gonna be able to buy a house, pay it off sooner, get my brand new cars, and not have to go into debt for it. So eventually making anywhere between $500 to $1,500 to $2,000 a month. That is life changing, and be able to take vacations without breaking the bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a lot of extra money.
Good. And you know what? It might take a little bit, baby steps, like you said, but that's very achievable, by the way, JC. That's not that difficult to do, but it takes time and it takes effort and it takes failing, making mistakes, but we shouldn't fear failure. Failure is the only way we're going to learn how to figure this stuff out. The point is to fail and then ask yourself, what did I get from that? What did I learn? And what's the next step? Too many people, I think, get caught up with the fear of failing, and then they never do anything to begin with. But the failure itself should not be feared, although fear is legitimate. But at times we need help. And that's what this episode's going to be about, is how to find a mentor. And in a way, I've kind of become your mentor in a slight little way, right? I mean, I don't know how much of an impact I've been able to have with you just in the last couple of conversations. You can share with me if you want. I'd be curious to know. But, in a way, I've kind of been your mentor, and I'd like to see if we could help other people find someone like myself in their life that they can have as support, as guidance, even just emotional, moral support, right? So you want to speak to any of that, by the way?
Absolutely. You've been a huge help. And whether you know it or not, you become my mentor. You become my number one mentor when it comes to this business. And not just in this, but in business in general.
Okay.
So you've been huge. Even though we don't talk every day, or we don't text each other every day, but you become my mentor through your podcast. And I know, as a matter of fact, I reached out to you, I think it was yesterday, the day before, I reached out to you on a specific question, and you replied to me. They asked you a question about the state. You said it was a state specific.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you're reachable, you're attainable, is huge. Because if a mentor can't be a mentor if I can't reach you.
Right.
The fact that I'm able to reach you and you're able to get back to me as soon as you can, that is huge.
Right.
But you become my mentor to the fact that I could text you. I have your phone number now, so I'll send you a text, but I can send you a messenger, a chat messenger. You reach out to me, and through your podcast, you become a huge mentor to me. To me, it's like you're talking to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be reaching thousands of people, but to me, you're talking to me when I'm listening to you on the podcast.
When do you listen, by the way?
I appreciate it.
Are you listening when you're driving or at home? How do you typically listen to the podcast?
I don't like listening when I'm driving.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm paying attention to the road, and I'm not gonna. So if I tried that already, to me, I'm gonna miss something. I said, man, he just said something really good. I just missed it. So I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen to. So I mostly listen when my youngest. I told you I have an 18-year-old. He works. He doesn't drive yet. So when I go pick him up at night at work, I'm mostly listening there. Or I might listen during my lunch break at work. And I told you I have a full-time job. I work for the state of Texas,
sure,
for DOT, Department of Transportation. And so during my lunch break, I might be listening to it. But mostly at night when I'm relaxed and I'm outside my car waiting for my son to come out of work.
Cool.
That's what I mostly listen to.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's very it's nice. It's nice. It's it's one of the things where I'm behind the microphone. I'm here in my studio by myself, and I never get this back and forth communication. And you're probably the first person I've actually had a full blown sort of conversation with from the audience, and so it's nice to hear from the other side. But let's talk about this, because the reason I reached out to you was because I wanted to get just what we got right now, which is the feedback that you're giving me as part of the people who are part of the audience that listens to my show. It's important that I understand what's going through you guys, as is mine, your thoughts, your ideas. It helps me with producing better content. So all that is very valuable to me, right? And this leads me to kind of how we find mentors. And so there's three things I think we should consider as notaries when we're looking for a mentor. Number one is, where do we find a mentor? Where do we look to find a mentor? Two, what value do we propose to offer the mentoree, I guess is the way you say it, or the person who's going to be mentoring us? Because I think sometimes, and I see this not very often, but sometimes people have an attitude of, I want someone to help me, but they don't think, what can I do back in return, right? How can I offer value for value, or create an ethically win-win relationship with someone who's going to be helping me back? I think we live in a society where people trade value for value. You don't go to the grocery store and expect them to give you free groceries. I think someone's time is very valuable as well. And so the idea is, one, where do we find a mentor? Two, what can I do to offer the mentoree value in return? And then how do we communicate with these mentors? What do we say to them? How do we introduce ourselves? How do we start the conversation? So let's go ahead and get started with kind of how that works in terms of finding a mentor. And the first place, at the end of the day, you want to find mentors who are successful, who are experienced, and there are several places where you can find these. I think the most, and I'm going to start with what I think is the best place to find a mentor as a notary, is attending anything that's a live event. Some sort of notary association, a conference, some kind of seminar where you get to network with people. I know some states, some groups have meetup groups where they meet and connect. Here in Southern California, where I live, one of the places I've gone to in the past to connect and communicate is a real estate investing association where they meet every 3 months, and people from escrow and title and other notaries come sort of networking. And that's even cooler because you're not there specifically to try and get business from people. You're there because you're interested in something different, but that's sort of related, right? So this is, in this case, it would be investing in real estate as an example. So I know the National Notary Association has a conference every year. All of these places are great places to sort of connect and become friends with people who are in the industry. Now, we'll talk about how you approach these professionals, these people who have experience when it comes to asking them to be your mentor. But let's keep going on the different places you can find potential mentors to help you, guide you when you're new, when you're trying to figure out something that you're not sure about. Another place which is very common is going on these online forums, these online notary groups like the Facebook groups. And I see a lot of people asking questions like, I'm brand new and I'm trying to figure out how to do all this. Can anybody help me? That's fine. But I think a better strategy, and this is going to go to point 2, is thinking in terms of what can I add to this group? How can I add value to this group? What do I bring? In my past episode, we talked about dealing with anxiety. And part of what that episode asked you, the audience, to do is to think about what's valuable about you. Like, what made you start this business? And oftentimes we have fear of failure and all this, but there was something about you that said, hey, I think I can be an entrepreneur. I think I can start my own business. I think I can become a notary and be successul. And it might be that you're good at sales, or you're good at talking to people. I mean, well, and let me ask you, JC, I know you've obviously been in corporate America. You've had a job. What would you say are some things that you would say that are a strong character trait, something that you're good at, like sales, customer service? What would you say something that, if you were to really think about it, and I know we don't really take the time to think about this stuff, but what would be something that you say, I'm really good at this, and I think it could help me with my notary?
I'm a people person.
Okay.
My wife always says, everywhere I go, I make friends. I'm a people person.
Chatty.
I love customer service. I think customer service is a lost art. No matter where you go, hard to find good customer service.
Right.
What we do as notaries, besides providing a service, we're giving customer service.
Yeah.
Whether you show up on time, whatever, being polite, so having a smiling face, being nice and gentle, and sometimes even being sympathetic to whatever a person is going through.
Right.
For example, today I did a notary for a lady who lost her mother in Colombia.
Oh, man.
Her and her family, I go, I am so sorry. She goes, oh, thank you, JC. But You know, it was I was there with her. You know, and she said, and it was sincere. Because right now, my wife's uncle is dying of cancer in Colombia as well. My wife's Colombian, so and my mother-in-law is in shambles because it's her younger brother. But besides the point, I was able to connect with this lady. I go, is there anything else, is there anything else that we could do for you? Is there anything, this is just, I just need this document so they could have the okay to as far as, because in Colombia, they automatically, everything goes to the children, automatic.
Yeah.
So they could be able to sell the assets. So, so I was able to connect with her. So, so customer service, we provide customer service.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I do a lot of I do jail wedding and notaries, but I also do a lot of hospital notaries. And in either case, I mean, you don't really know what someone's going through because you can't get into their skin, right? You don't know what they're feeling. You don't know what kind of pain they're experiencing. Even people in jail. I mean, I gotta say, people make mistakes, but I still feel bad for people being in there. And I try to be as nice and polite to the inmates as I would anybody else, right? I mean, they're still human beings, and again, if they made mistakes, but I think compassion, I think empathy is a huge trait. I'm glad you brought that up because it's really something that I think when people experience it, especially like if you're doing hospital notaries, people are passing away, people are sick. I mean, what a valuable asset. And yeah, I think you're right. You do have that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, great point. Great point. So these are the kind of things, and then we say to ourselves, okay, well, this is what can I offer this person, right? Now, another place that we can consider looking for mentors is in our local area. I mean, literally doing a Google search of notaries in your area. Now, this is a little tough because oftentimes the notaries in your area are going to be the people you're going to be competing with, right? And well, the next show is going to be about how to build win-win relationships with notaries in your area. So instead of being competitors, you guys can actually team up and work together. And so I'm going to have one of my notary friends. Her name's April. She's a local notary here in my town. And her and I actually refer each other notaries when we can't do them, and we sort of become this partnership. So there's actually opportunities in finding a mentor even in that way, right? But you find somebody that maybe it's not even related in your industry. Maybe you can find an attorney that's in your area that if you want to focus on doing attorney type notarizations, you can do a chamber of commerce and connect with people in your local area. You could even call a notary and see how it goes. I mean, you reached out to me. I could have just completely not responded. That didn't matter. Your dreams were bigger than a rejection or someone not responding to you. And you went for it. I think a lot of people are sometimes afraid and let that hold them back. And if that intimidates you, even calling a notary that's not in your immediate area, someone that's still in the same state as you, but maybe is in, if you're in southern Texas, maybe call a notary in northern Texas, right? And say, hey, listen, I'm a newer notary and I'd like just some guidance on how you do this and that. Listen, I have this to offer and I'm happy to help you in some way, maybe even offer to pay them or take them out to lunch if they're in the area. There's so many different ways you can try and get them to want to work with you. And even if it's a one-time pointer that they're going to give you, that might, it's definitely worth the effort. So let's go ahead and in terms of actually trading value. So when we talk about trading value, we want to be able to create win-win relationships with the people we're trying to communicate with. So let's just say you come from a sales background or you're a real estate agent and you're trying to become a loan signing agent, which is very common. What do you bring that you can help a notary who's more experienced that you want to have mentor you? Maybe you have sales experience. Maybe you have marketing experience. Maybe, and let's just say you, JC, let's just say you're great at marketing locally with like flyers and business cards. And you can say, hey, I'm new at this, but I'm really good at this. Is there any way I can offer you to do some work for you or offer you my services in exchange for just maybe an hour of your time to have some coffee. I'll buy you coffee. I'll buy you some lunch, and maybe we can just chat for a little bit. That just doing something like that, as opposed to just asking for help without anything in return, is huge. What do you think about that, JC? You think that's a good strategy?
That's an awesome strategy. And obviously, and also offering pointers, like you just said, offering pointers. If I could just say right now, earlier I posted on Nextdoor.
Okay, yeah.
Posted on Nextdoor, and a lady replied saying, I've been posting on Nextdoor, and I keep getting negative replies from people. I sent her a private message saying, do not let anybody, and she's from my same neighborhood. But you want to help each other out, like you just said.
Yeah.
I told her, keep at it. Don't let the negativity, sidetrack you.
Yeah.
Don't let the negativity hit you. Just keep at it. Keep fighting. So I'm good in encouraging people.
Mm-hmm.
If that's one thing I can do is encourage. For example, for marketing and all that, I'm still trying to figure it out. But if I can encourage another notary, which I've been doing good at, I've been really good at that. I'm all for helping each other out.
Right.
Yeah, we're competing, but at the same time, man, there's so much notary work out there.
Sure.
Man, let's help each other out.
Yeah. Yeah, and even I think even what you said, even just listening to someone is valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we don't do enough of that sometimes, I think. So let's talk about how we engage with the people that we're trying to connect with. And there's a book that I've recommended before on my podcast. It's an old classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Have you ever read that book, JC?
I have not.
Oh, okay. That's okay. That's okay. A lot of people haven't, but it's one of those books that in my life, and I started in sales and marketing, like 25. I was 19 when I started this, and I've been doing it ever since. And I've done other stuff, insurance, and I've done investment. I was an investment advisor for a few years while I was doing notary work. And so I learned a lot along the way. And that was one of the books that had the most profound effect on me. And I'm going to give you guys sort of the principles, the basic principles of what this book talks about. And then I would recommend for you guys to go out and actually buy it and listen to it. It's definitely a classic that you want to listen to at least once every couple of years. But the first principle, and I think there are a total of 5 of them, but the first principle is to sincerely care about other people and to see things from their perspective, essentially making them feel important. That's kind of what you've been talking about, isn't it, JC?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And what we mean by this is listening to them, asking them how things are going, right? Be genuinely interested in other people and in what it is that's going on with their life. That is probably, in my opinion, the best way to really connect and have a relationship with someone that you've never met before. So when I learned this concept, and let's just say I'm networking at a Chamber of Commerce event, I play a little game, JC, with the people I talk with, okay? I don't know if you've caught on with this already, but this is what I like to do. My game is this. How many times can I get you to answer a question before you ask me a question? And every time I let you throw a question in to me, I lose a point. That's how I do it. My goal in life, when I interact with people, is to get to know as much as I can about someone when I first meet them. And I'm constantly asking questions. And I do it in such a way where more than not, I never get a question in return. I'm just, and when they ask a question, I'm listening, like literally intently listening, because it's going to help me ask them something else about and here's the thing. I don't do this as a manipulative way of trying to get something out of someone. I'm genuinely interested in people. I think people are cool. I think people have amazing. Just what you're telling me now about the Colombian lady and stuff. I can literally feel and imagine what that was like. I almost like I was in the room with you, and how that went. I personally enjoy. And if you're gonna do it out of trying to get something out of someone, then don't do it for that reason, right? But if you're going to be genuine about it, I think that's going to go a long way. And you said you're good with people. I mean, has that kind of been your experience, JC, when you're dealing with people?
Yes. I've always cared about people, and I've always, which is one of the things I connect really quick. For example, at church.
Yeah.
My wife always tells me if she let me, I'd be in every single team at church. I don't know how to say no. So, but I love connecting. And as a matter of fact, going back to what you said about the questions, I noticed right away that when you were constantly asking me questions when we had the Zoom call, it was to see how you can help me.
Yeah.
And you never said that, hey, I'm asking you questions to see how I can. No. But I caught on to that. Yeah, I did catch on that you're the type of person you ask questions to see how you could benefit me.
Yeah. And
at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Putting yourself second and putting the other person first ahead of yourself is a rule of thumb for me on helping people out.
And I'll tell you this, and we might see things a little differently in this point, but I was actually doing that because I was trying to get something out of it. So I was really, I had and I'll tell you what it was. The purpose for me doing this, okay, it wasn't out of altruism. It wasn't out of charity. And I think when I told you this, you kind of liked the fact that I said that I told you this, because it makes you feel like you weren't, taking alms from me, right? I'm working on a project and I want to genuinely understand what my audience is going through. I've been doing this for so long, JC, that I don't remember what it's like to be brand new, right? And that's a good thing because it's behind me now. But when I want to now help people, and I'm in the process of taking my podcast and my ability to help people in this industry, I'm taking it to the next level now. And so now that I'm in this new phase of trying to understand how I can be of value to other people, your insights are extremely valuable to me. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So you being open, you being honest, you telling me the truth, and you were very open, very honest, and I appreciate that. It was a small price to pay for me to give you what I already sort of almost take for granted, not out of experience and time that I've been doing this. In return, you gave me valuable insights that I was looking for. See that? So I wasn't putting you second or myself second or you first, me first. We were equal in this case. We were equal partners helping each other out. And I want you to know that because, I don't know if you felt bad by thinking that, but you did me a favor in exchange. And that's the value that I'm talking about, right? Trading value for value. So the other thing is, and we just touched on this, is be a good listener and encourage others to talk about themselves and be genuinely interested in them. So we touched on that already. Another thing that I want you to sort of consider, maybe start working on and I'm not just talking to you, JC, I'm talking to anybody who's listening to this podcast. When it comes to dealing with people and making friends and influencing people, is avoid arguing and criticizing them. Nobody ever won an argument at the end of the day, because this is what I tell my daughter, right? I don't know if you know this, but I homeschool my daughter, JC. Well, you probably know that now, right? You listen to the podcast.
I do.
And I've been homeschooling her whole life. And now she's more self-studied and she's older. She's 13. And so she's kind of getting the hang of it on her own. But for 1.5 years, she did go to public school. She said, Dad, I'm bored being home all day. I need to make some friends, Dad. You're my only friend. I need to get out, So she goes out for 1.5 years, and it was good. It was a good experience. But as a lot of you probably know, some public schools aren't the greatest. A lot of fighting going on. A lot of stuff happens. And so one of the things my daughter asked me, Dad, what happens if I get in a fight? Because apparently there was a few opportunities where she was being challenged. I said, honey, if you get in a fight, I'm taking you out. But why, Dad? Everyone's going to think I'm not cool if I don't fight back, and this and that. I said, babe, because when you fight, nobody wins. No, at the end of the day, you're both going to get hurt. Even if you won the fight, you're still going to be hurting the next day. Same thing with an argument. When you argue with somebody, you may have won the argument, but you probably tick them off and you're probably not going to have a good relationship with them. So one of the principles is never criticize somebody, at least not in a negative way, and don't try to win an argument for the sake of winning an argument. I've constantly had situations where I knew somebody was saying something to me that was incorrect. It was wrong. The old me would tell them, oh, you're wrong. That's not true. And I would embarrass them in front of everybody. And you think that person ever liked me after that, JC?
Absolutely not.
No, I embarrassed them, man. And it was not nice. And, why would you do that in front of people? So now when people tell me that, I'll be like, oh yeah, I thought it was different, but I may be wrong. I constantly am wrong. So I'll definitely look into that. But yeah, that makes a really good point. And I will let them save face, and later maybe we'll have a conversation. So what do you think of that point, JC, and kind of dealing with people in that sense?
Well, public shaming is never good.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. And there's been times where I want to maybe public shame somebody. And I'm talking, again, I'm a Christian background, but I am human.
Yeah. So
there's been times where I wanted to publicly shame somebody, but I hold back. So it is always good to, hey, you're right, maybe you're right, maybe you're right. Let me look into it, but have a private conversation with that person.
Yeah.
If at all possible, without fighting. So that's a great point.
Excellent. Good. The last two here are ask questions and acknowledge others' wants and opinions. Let them be heard. So it's a little bit more of what the first couple of points were saying. And then the last one is offer honest appreciation and praise. Recognize people's strengths, efforts, and growth. And how do you think we can use that principle when it comes to maybe communicating with someone that we want to work with or have help us?
Saying please, thank you, be polite,
yeah,
and letting the person know that they're appreciated goes a long way. Whether you're providing a service, whether they're doing something for you, even if you're doing something for them, thanking them for giving you the opportunity to do something for them is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even starting off with a compliment, right? Like, hi, wow, I noticed how you spoke about that point, and you did a really good job talking about that. I mean, imagine going up to someone and introducing yourself with a compliment. How well do you think that's going to go for you, JC?
That's going to go far.
Yeah.
Just letting them know that you acknowledge them, just letting them knowing that you acknowledge them is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So now let's kind of loop this around and tidy up. Finding a mentor is not going to be the easiest thing in the world. Okay, but it's not the hardest thing in the world either. There are a lot of people out there who are willing to go out of their way and help you, especially if you're willing to offer something in return as value. I knew a guy, in fact, I'll tell you the story. I knew a guy who was a notary, and we were talking kind of the way you and I, not as much as you and I, but I kind of got to know him a little bit, and he was good at building websites. And so one of the things I asked him, I said, hey, look, how good are you? He's like, yeah, I can build you a simple website in like 30 minutes, an hour. I was like, really? I was like, wow. I said, have you ever offered, the people that you're trying to learn from how to, maybe build them a website or, get them started with that? He's like, I never thought about that. And I think at the time he was trying to do wedding officiant work. He was trying to become a wedding officiant. And so he reached out to a wedding officiant. He says, hey, listen, I noticed, your website, it looks pretty good. And it sounds like, he started off with a compliment. He's like, dude, you have a lot of great reviews on your website. But I noticed that there are a few things here and there that I think you could possibly improve. And I'd love to help you do that. And I will do it at no cost to you, but I'm trying to become a wedding officiant, and I told him, call someone who's far away, right? So you're not competing with them. And I live really far away. I'm in Southern California. I know you're in Northern California. Do you think we could help each other out? And the first guy said, no, I'm not interested, right? I think he talked like to two other people, and then one of them said, oh, yeah, all right. I'll give you some pointers. What do you want to know? I think he spent an hour with the guy and he helped him, and they ended up helping each other out. And, just an example of how you can trade value with other people who you want to have help you in return. So any final words, JC, before we wrap the show up?
No, just it's funny you said that about finding a mentor is not hard. It's not. It's just finding the right mentor. In my case, I told you earlier, like I said earlier, you're my mentor, because I've been looking for a way to learn. But every time, I've listened to podcasts before yours.
Yeah.
But every podcast, it's like a way of them. And again, I'm not gonna name names. Like I said, I don't like publicly shaming anybody. But most podcasts, unfortunately, it's a way of them promoting their learning or their schools and again, learning does cost money and stuff like that. But or you give and trade, but that's and I've reached out to people, or even in going on the group chats, people ask questions, and the replies is, "Oh, go to my class." And when you go to their class, when you sign up to their link, it's $500 just to figure something out.
Right.
I go, that's so reaching out to you was very easy, or reach out to somebody, and it's not hard at all to find a mentor. It's not.
And I will say this, sometimes offering money is the value that you trade for people who have a specialized skill, right? Sometimes that is, if you find, and I think you made a good point, JC, if you find the right mentor that you need for yourself. In some cases, it is appropriate if what you feel they have to offer is valuable, then, and you want to trade with them. Even offering them monetary compensation isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think what you're saying, though, is a lot of people pretend to want to help people, but really what they're trying to do is get you to buy what they have to sell without really giving you anything of value to begin with. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
yes.
I agree. And I think in that sense, it's... I'm not going to say much. I know there's a lot of people who do that out there, and I don't necessarily subscribe to that, right? I think that's the point that you're trying to make. But yeah, I mean, and another, I forgot to mention this. A great way to find a mentor is listening to this show, right? It's almost as if I'm in there with you in your living room at a restaurant, and we're just having a conversation, and you're just letting me talk because you just learned how to do that. And how to win friends and influence people is just let me talk and talk and talk. And so you're listening to me talk for an hour and a half or 30 minutes, however long that podcast is. So, even this show in itself could be a mentor. Now, I will say that I don't always have time to kind of take the time that I took with someone like you, JC. At times I'm busy, and I try to respond to everybody who sends me an email or a message. And when I do have time and I'm in the position to do it, I'll always try to help as much as I can. Because if you remember my story, the reason I got started is because I had a lady who spent an hour with me, and within 1 hour she launched my career. And I had been a notary for a year, had done nothing with it, had given up on the idea of being a notary, and so I know how valuable it is. And she just did it just to help me out. I thought it was really great. So it's almost my way of paying it forward for the help that I was given. So, but anyhow. JC, thank you so much for being on the show. You did a really good job, and you gave some great feedback and insights. And I hope a lot of the notaries that are listening to this show can get some inspiration from JC and learn from what he's been able to do. I mean, he went from just saying hello to me and asking me a few questions to now being on the show. I mean, give me a break, right? And if you would like to maybe reach out, you're like, oh my God, you're right. If you would like to reach out, you can always email me. My email is contact@notarybusinesstalk.com, or if you want to find me on any of the social media platforms, I'm under Notary Business Talk, so you can look for me there. And JC, we're about to finish the show. Any final words?
Thank you, Abraham, for having me. Man, this was a great experience. Thank you. You are the notary entrepreneur, man. You are an awesome mentor. Let me tell you something. Like I said, for all the notaries out there listening to the show, keep listening. Every episode, I learned something.
Good.
Believe it or not, in every episode, I learned something.
I appreciate
I stopped doing things that I was doing, and I've picked up new things. So just to let you know that.
Awesome.
Just because of your show.
Awesome. Thanks, JC. I appreciate that, and I appreciate those kind words. And for the rest of you who stay tuned to the end, I appreciate you listening. Until next time, be well, take care, and stay productive. See you next time, guys.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Notary Business Talk. To learn more about becoming a notary entrepreneur or to find out how Abraham can help you achieve your business goals, visit notarybusinesstalk.com.